Welcome to 3countcommentaries. We're talking about Smackdown from April the 29th, 2022. Before we get into Smackdown, we got news and notes, and we got actually an extensive news and notes segment this week. I know, let's first, the NXT releases. I know there were some NXT releases. We'll go into that at NXT. So, got a couple of days for them to release some more people, because I don't think that it's over. But we'll see. I just want to mention it here so people will know that I know that it occurred. And of the people that I saw released, Harland and Persia Pirotta actually have potential. I think they deserved more time. But other than that, I don't see too much of a problem with anybody that they released. All right, so from there, let's go into the second story, which was the NBC Peacock growth. So it's Variety noted that Peacock hits 28 million monthly active U.S. Accounts, 13 million paid subscribers. This is a pretty big deal. This is off the back of Bel Air and some other Tiger King movie, the Jennifer Lopez movie. Of course, they're still far behind Disney and different things like that, but they're growing well. Peacock has only been around for about a year, and so they're doing okay. And from those numbers, we actually get to see a little bit of how WrestleMania did, a little bit of the increase in viewership for WrestleMania. So according to, this was tweeted out by Ryan Satin, it says, quote, "The last year, the company migrated WWE Network to NBC's Peacock, expanded its reach even further. Here's the data on how the company's premier event, WrestleMania, performed the last 2 years on Peacock versus the average of the previous 7 years on WWE Network, according to data from the streaming analytics firm Conviva. WrestleMania 37 2021 was up 38%. WrestleMania Sunday 2021, this would be 37, up 22%. WrestleMania 38 2022 Saturday, up 100%. WrestleMania 38 2022 Sunday, up 98%. So once you get to 100% of something, you've pretty much doubled the audience. So WrestleMania has been doubling the audience that they were getting on WWE Network. It says this year's WrestleMania viewership on Peacock effectively doubled the viewership of the average of the 7 events from 2014 to 2020, and it aired for 2 nights doing those numbers as opposed to 1. In January, before the year's massive WrestleMania numbers were posted, Matthew Baloney of Puck reported that 1 million of the 1.1 million pre-existing WWE Network subscribers successfully moved their accounts over to Peacock. So, almost 100%, about 90 some odd percent of the WWE Network subscribers moved over to Peacock. And yes, we do find Peacock to be an inferior product. I mean, Peacock is an inferior product to what the WWE Network was. But a lot of people have successfully moved over, and I'm guessing this is a dub for Peacock. This is what they wanted. So there is still some success here. Business is doing great. And so this ought to be pretty nice. I know a lot of it, the success of Peacock, it says, Comcast said, this is from Variety, Comcast said its overall revenue increased 14% to slightly more than $31 billion, compared to $27.2 billion in the year previous. This is from Q1 earnings recall from NBC. With a whopping 46.6% increase in revenue at its NBCU operations, due in part to the $1.5 billion in cash generated by the Super Bowl and the Olympics. Overall, Comcast reported net income of $3.55 billion in the first quarter, or 78 cents a share, compared to $3.32 billion or 71 cents a share in the year earlier period. Adjusted for one-time items, earnings came to 86 cents per share. All right, so NBC having all of these big-time properties and WrestleMania actually doing better than usual. This is looking pretty good for Peacock. So that's not bad. It's not bad. It's never a bad thing for Peacock to not be on the downslope. It's always great to hear that they're not in the gutter, even though the product is inferior. All right, so WWE announced the name of their event in Cardiff. It will be called WWE Clash at the Castle in Cardiff, Wales. I guess this is a stadium show. That's an interesting title, Clash at the Castle. Is it a castle? That's my question. My European subscribers, specifically those who are in the English area, the British area, is this big stadium a castle? Or is it called a castle? I don't know. But this is one of the new many WWE stadium shows. WWE wants to have more stadium shows. I am leery of the concept of WWE having more stadium shows because I think that we have been conditioned as wrestling fans to really accept that stadium shows are important, that big events equal stadiums, and that we kind of have come to understand that. And also, not just, big events equal stadiums, but it's very cool to see the stadium full, I don't want to get to the point where, like, I forget who, some wrestling journalist said this, and I think it's very important, that WWE gets like World Class did, where World Class would run Texas Stadium, and sometimes it'd be full, but sometimes you see large swaths of these seats that are empty. And as Jim Cornette would say, there's a match that deserves a stadium, and then there's a stadium that needs a match. I think WWE needs to chill on that. Like, I would rather you fill up the building. And I know sometimes, and I said this before, that attendance is becoming less and less important. And maybe they're trying to get into the stadium business so that they can just say we run stadiums. But to me, unless you can fill the stadium, it really just kind of looks tacky. Like they're barely filling arenas now, So running stadium shows, I'm not sure if it's a great idea. This is a Nick Khan idea. As we know, he talked about this before. It was his idea to run Money in the Bank in a stadium. And this has officially made Money in the Bank a huge show that it could support a stadium. But of course, it was also WWE's first real show back, from their COVID I was about to call it a hiatus, but that wouldn't be the appropriate thing to call it. So I don't know how I feel about the excessive stadium stuff. I guess it depends on the shows. We have to look at what shows are going to be in the stadium first. Then once we know what shows are going to be in the stadium, then we can decide whether the stadium is really necessary or not. If this Clash at the Castle is going to be a pay-per-view style event or a premium live event or whatever they're calling them now, then it's a big European show, and I'm okay with that. I think we need to have big European shows. I also think we need to have big Australian shows, big Japanese shows, because the network can support it now. It could support it before, but Peacock definitely wants more content. So why not do a big premium live event in Cardiff, Wales, or in Australia, or in Japan, or somewhere else, an exotic location? Why does it have to just be Saudi Arabia? So I support it for that idea, but that's it. I don't see the need to have big stadiums for events outside of the big four, and the Saudi shows. Other than that, maybe a special show here and there, but I don't think we need to start trying to book stadiums for, by God, Backlash or something like that. I don't think that's necessary. We can just run regular events, basketball arenas. Let's just stick to the rivers and the lakes that we're used to. All right, so let's get into SmackDown. If I told you that a show that featured a cage match and 2 I Quit matches would be a throwaway show that meant nothing, would you believe me? Of course you would, especially if you watched this episode of SmackDown. This show has really gone down the crapper. The shitta, as they will call it. I'm really disappointed in SmackDown. So let's talk about this show. It was taped a week ago, which I didn't know until the show was over. I didn't know until the show was over. Anyway. Drew McIntyre defeated Sami Zayn. Drew Gulak is now a timekeeper. This was a steel cage match. It was honestly not bad. It wasn't awful, but I didn't see the point of it. I mean, again, this is the 3rd time they've wrestled in 3 weeks. This is their third match in 3 weeks. It wasn't bad, but it seemed like a waste of a cage. It seemed like a waste of time. We knew Drew McIntyre was going to win. Should have just won the first time, and we could have been doing something else, but whatever. Next, Charlotte Flair cut a promo about how she doesn't get humiliated, and she's going to humiliate Ronda and send Ronda home with her ball or something or other. I don't know, man. I'm going to give this joint the energy that it gave me. So we get to the main event, which is a pair of I Quit matches. Ronda Rousey versus Shotzi ended in 1 minute, 41 seconds. Everybody was complaining Shotzi didn't get an entrance, which of course I knew she wasn't getting an entrance. I knew that was going to happen. And that she was being fed to Ronda Rousey in a minute 41. But I think the most interesting and probably the most honest critique is that this does water down the I Quit stipulation. Not just that, but it's also pointless. Like, here's the thing about the beat the clock challenge that I really never even liked the idea, because it assumes that one side is going to win. Like, you walk into this situation saying to yourself, Aaliyah will never beat Charlotte. So it's all about how quickly she can beat Aaliyah. And it's like, why would you put any wrestler in that situation? Like, it's one thing for it to be a job guy, which, to be quite honest, the jobber who wrestled Raquel Rodriguez later in the show got more offense than either Shotzi or Aaliyah in either one of these matches, by the way. I mean, she had Raquel on the ropes a little bit. Shotzi and Aaliyah have both been on this roster for a long time, and they got nothing. Nothing. And look, I'm not even one of those people who say that this is a poor usage of them. I just don't see the purpose of it being an I Quit match. Nor do I see the purpose in it being a beat the clock challenge. They could just be matches. And just be matches that they have. Because they need to warm up, or whatever the case may be. And even if that was going to be the case, and you say, well, these are warm-up matches. Okay. Then they could have gave them some time. You know, having both matches be 1 minute and 41 seconds doesn't seem like much time. And it also doesn't tell much of a story, to be quite honest. Now, the Ronda and Shotzi match did try to tell a story, and it was a classic heel babyface story where Shotzi ran away for like 20 seconds. She actually got caught. You know, Ronda Rousey only went for the ankle lock. That was her only, the only thing she thought to do was attack the ankle. So her entire focus was on the ankle lock. Instead of letting Shotzi at least be somewhat effective in running away so that the time can go by and she can actually get heat for it, you know, because people will boo if she hang out outside the ring. Now, if they had not done all that stuff they had done with Sami Zayn, where all he did was run away for 3 weeks, this would make sense. And of course, they also did it with Kevin Owens recently, where they just basically walked out. This would have made a lot more sense because you have to win the match by, you know, a verbal submission. That Shotzi would have walked away, just stayed away, you know. Just, you know, ran into the crowd or whatever the case may be just to get the heat. And then Ronda does something slick to catch her. You know, maybe then, you know, Shotzi takes some underhanded eye rake, something like that, in order to get the advantage, just to, you know, milk the clock, to build some drama for the thing. And it actually would have helped Aaliyah too, because Aaliyah was the one who was going to survive. And we knew that going in. I'm sorry if you didn't know, but I kind of looked at this thing and said, okay, well, I'm pretty sure Shotzi's going to get beaten some type of, 2 minutes or whatever. And then Aaliyah will survive the 2 minutes because Charlotte would then lose. So I knew that Shotzi was going to lose fast. I figured that was going to occur. And we were going to do something where we could actually kind of help Aaliyah, but not really. So I just disagree with the I Quit stipulation. The beat the clock sprint, there's no point to it because there's no stakes. It's not like the winner of the beat the clock sprint won anything. It just literally was a way to waste 3 minutes at the end of the show. So, Shotzi loses to the ankle lock. She submits. Aaliyah wrestles Charlotte. Charlotte takes a minute or two to congratulate Ronda Rousey on her win. Aaliyah actually does get an entrance in her new theme song. They actually tell it that Aaliyah has the record for the fastest win in SmackDown history, which is actually true, and I forgot about that. So Aaliyah actually does the babyface thing, and she goes right after Charlotte. She's wrestling in a real match against Charlotte and actually getting some offense in. Around minute 38 seconds or whatever, the figure eight is actually locked in, even though it was kind of sloppy because Aaliyah was flopping around a lot. She gets the figure eight, but Aaliyah does not submit, and Aaliyah actually survives the beat the clock sprint. So that should be something. That should be interesting and see how that serves her in the future, which I don't think so. Charlotte was angry and blamed Drew Gulak, who was the timekeeper, and said that he was stupid and he only had one job, and that's just to ring the bell. She goes over there, starts to smack him, push him around. Then she hits him in the back of the head with the bell and tells him that he only had a job, which was to ring the bell. So this is week 3 of Charlotte beating up Drew Gulak. What is the end game to this? And I think the end game to this is going to be what Bully Ray and Mark Henry was talking about. Now, I was going to bring this up in the news and notes, but I decided not to. I decided to wait till right here. But Bully Ray and Mark Henry have said that essentially Charlotte is good enough to wrestle men. And while I don't necessarily agree with the concept of Charlotte wrestling men, I do have to ask the question, what more can Charlotte do? That's really the question that I have. It's like Charlotte has been so pushed so hard for so many years. You have to ask the question, what is there for her to do? You know, the only option I could think of is you put her in a tag team similar to Randy Orton and you help her, or you get her to help somebody else. I guess that's possible. But once she loses this title to Ronda, she's going to, go on hiatus? She's going to have to disappear for a while? You know, what kind of undercard feud can she possibly have? Because they've completely destroyed the entire undercard of SmackDown. You know, if she's not wrestling Ronda, and I'm pretty sure she's probably going to have another match with Ronda after this. I don't know what event is after this. Is it Money in the Bank? So maybe she'll be in that or something. And then what after that? Because I think the next pay-per-view is in June. So yeah, that'll be Money in the Bank. So, and then after that, then what? You know, she's already been a tag team champion. She was a tag team champion with Asuka. Now, a lengthy tag team run could be useful for her. With who, I don't know. In what situation, I don't know. But you're in a position here where Charlotte has maxed out. You know, it's like, you know, you got your Pokemon to the highest possible level. There is nowhere more for her to go. So I'm thinking they're teasing the concept of Charlotte wrestling men. And they're going to use Drew Gulak to sort of enter the idea into your mind. That perhaps Drew Gulak is going to challenge Charlotte to a match. And, you know, because his style is mostly grappling, he could get over doing that and not punching or kicking or anything like that. Like when they did it with Reggie. Like when they had Sasha Banks wrestle Reggie. He was able to get away with it because Reggie is an acrobat. So his style was no strikes, but quick counters and quick moving. And it made the match interesting, but we knew, one, he was going to lose because they're not going to put a guy against a girl and then he wins. 2, he was, you know, a rookie at the time. He was a sommelier. He wasn't a wrestler. So he certainly wasn't going to win. And 3, it was done sort of as an icebreaker to the idea that men could wrestle women in a certain context. And it seems like there might be reintroducing that context with Drew Gulak and Charlotte. That maybe we start having situations where Charlotte, in order to get her comeuppance, has to wrestle men. And that's going to be a interesting thing. And I think that these ideas are being introduced, even though they're being introduced on Busted Open Radio. I think they're being introduced for a reason. Because there has to be an end game to this thing. Charlotte already has her A story with Ronda. But this is her B story. It's her 2-3 week beef with Drew Gulak. And it's going somewhere. This is WWE, unless they just drop it out of nowhere, which, you know, is entirely possible. But this is WWE. Typically, if they introduce something, there's at least a general idea of what they wanted to do with it. It could get dropped, of course, but there's at least a general idea of what they want to do with it. And it's going to mix together with the Drew Gulak concept of what they want to do with him. Because they're doing a thing where Gulak is just having different jobs and failing at it. And as he fails at these different jobs, he's butting heads with the wrestlers. So I'm thinking eventually he's going to get back in the ring. Now, to me, I don't want to see Charlotte wrestling, man, but I can see them trying it. I can see them saying that, okay, we're going to have a match where Drew Gulak is going to wrestle Charlotte. You know, maybe he'd throw a knife edge chop or something like that, but that's about it. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the direction we're going here. Probably some kind of special attraction where Charlotte wrestles a man. You know, maybe she'll wrestle Ricochet for the Intercontinental title or something like that. I'm not for it, by the way, but I do think that that's the direction that we're going in. Because once Charlotte loses this title, there's nowhere for her to go. And, I mean, she's already done everything that she could possibly do. Unless you're going to send her home and treat her like Trish Stratus or something like that, what more do you got? You know, she's their favorite female wrestler. And she's tall. So I'm pretty sure they can be like, oh, well, she's taller than those guys. She can compete against them. And it's not a good idea. And that's also why I think it's going to happen. Because it's not a good idea. It's dumb. And WWE likes to be dumb sometimes. So the I Quit thing, wasted the I Quit stipulation, ruined the Beat the Clock sprint stipulation. If you're going to do a Beat the Clock sprint, it should at least been jobbers, not signed talents that we're just not using right now. It seems silly. I mean, you brought in this job girl for Raquel Gonzalez, and let's talk about that right now since we're here. It's not on the list anywhere, but since I'm talking about the women's division and I'm talking about Raquel Gonzalez, they cut a promo with her when she talked about she used to all eyes being on her and she used to be in the center of attention. Didn't really introduce her character. She's just smiling a lot. And for some reason, a lot of people are complaining about the smiling. And it's one of those things that unless you read it on the dirt sheets, that, you know, Vince makes everybody smile, you wouldn't have complained about it. You wouldn't have talked about it. You wouldn't even mentioned it. But the one thing about this whole match that I said was kind of weird to me, outside of, and this is just an aside, Michael Cole, when he was discussing Raquel Rodriguez, he said she was big, strong, and sturdy. Like, you calling women sturdy? Is she a chair? Is she a desk? Why are you calling this girl sturdy? If she's made of wood? Like, she's made of tempered steel? Why are we saying that she's sturdy? Somebody's going to sit on her? Like, what's going on here? So, I just thought that was very weird. So, Kat Cardoza is apparently Layla Gray, who is the OVW Women's Champion. She had been wrestling some matches in AEW. She also was part of the Los Lotharios Kiss Cam a couple of weeks ago. She was also in the wedding segment, the Bachelorette segment on Raw a couple of weeks ago. So they like having her around. Maybe they'll sign her to a deal because she actually didn't look bad in this match. The fact they gave her so much offense tells me that they probably have a spot for her in mind, because they not only are they using her so much, but they gave her some real offense against somebody who is much, much bigger. And usually WWE would tell giants don't go down. But the opening volley here is Kat Cardoza getting Raquel Gonzalez down on her knee. And I was thinking to myself, like, what on earth that's weird. You know, like, that's really weird that WWE would allow that to happen. You know, even if it's, you know, out of nowhere, even if it was a cheap shot or something like that, she shouldn't go down. But the fact that they not only let Kat Cardoza, Layla Gray, put Raquel Gonzalez down on one knee, but also get a knee strike in on the corner, choked her on the top rope, I was like, wait a minute. She's getting some offense in here. You know, somebody wants to see something out of this girl. And maybe it's a test to Raquel too, because, you know, ego. You want to test the girl's ego to see if she's going to be like, wait a minute, I shouldn't be doing that, which is probably what she should say, by the way. If she should probably say, no, I should go in here and kill her in 30 seconds. I mean, this should have been the beat the clock match where, you know, you won in a minute 40. you know? But for some reason, it wasn't. Like, this should have been the minute 40 match. Because it should have been, okay, Kat Cardoza, got a couple of cheap shots in. She pissed off Raquel. She, boom, bowled her over with that lariat, which was a great spot, by the way. And it was sold very well by Kat Cardoza. We should have went from straight into the finish after that clothesline. But they didn't do that. They continued going. Anyway, Raquel Rodriguez, of course, wins with the Chingoa bomb. This was fine. It was fine. It was a good win for Raquel Rodriguez. People got to see her. She got to smile at them, but I think that Kat Cardoza really showed out. I think she did a good job. Wouldn't be surprised if she don't show up on NXT soon. And the fact that she was in OVW first gives her a bit of a leg up on the rest of the talent who would be in the Performance Center. Of course, knowing that, they're cutting Booker T students left and right because they cut Draco Anthony, who was a Booker T student. They cut him. AQA was also a Booker T student. They cut her too. So, maybe it's not the best thing, but the reality of wrestling and OVW are two different things. And the OVW of today with Al Snow is a little bit different from the OVW with Jim Cornette and Danny Davis, but it's still got a good lineage, and the girl seems to really have something. So maybe, a run in NXT might help her out. All right. We finally get to talk about the guys again. Cause I think that was all the girl stuff. Other than Lacey Evans. We'll talk about that when we get there. Happy Corbin. He's out there being drab as usual. And another boring happy talk segment. I mean, why is this guy the guy with the talk segment? He's not some lyrical, miracle, schmiracle, talkity talk guy. Like, this guy, he's not a charisma guy. Giving The Miz a talk show. All right, The Miz is a charisma guy. Christian, he's a charisma guy. Kevin Owens, Edge, probably not the best idea just because of their characters. I don't think Kevin Owens or Edge should have talk shows. It just doesn't make sense for their character. The Miz, it makes perfect sense for him to have a talk show. It fits into his, all about me, ego-centered character. And it fits the same thing when it comes to Christian and Carlito. It all fits. They're charisma guys, talking guys, quick wit, verbal skills, that sort of thing. Corbin, he's not that guy. This guy is tattooed from his neck down, and they're trying to turn him into a talkative guy. It's like, I don't know, man. He always looks silly in this gear that y'all got him in. But we got another boring happy talk segment. He says that he took the trophy because Madcap Moss owes all of his victories to him, because he molded and shaped Madcap Moss, and he's going to take because he molded and shaped Madcap Moss, he's going to destroy him. But first, he's going to destroy the Andre the Giant Memorial Trophy. So he has the trophy brought down to the ring. Madcap Moss interferes very aggressively, beats the hell out of Corbin. He looked very good here. He's very intense. He was fired up. And then that silly ass music started to play. And he started to go right into his laughing fits. And I was like, this doesn't fit. This doesn't make sense. It's not congruent. Like, he's super intense and fired up. And it makes sense. And now he's bursting into laughter. And this goofy music is playing in the background. We have to get him the fuck out of this madcap stuff. It looks silly. It looks silly and it sounds silly. And it's put him, who is doing a great job. Madcap Moss as a performer is doing a good job. It's all the aesthetic around him that is garbage. It's the gear, the music, the laughing. It's all stupid. Can we at least get rid of one of these things? One of them, just one of them. If you want to keep the name Madcap, fine. Change the theme song. You want to keep the theme song? Okay, at least change the gear. Just all of it is too much. It's terrible. It's awful. And Baron Corbin should not be doing talk segments. Just have him cut a regular promo. Like, what the fuck is the difference, really? He had no guest, so why do I... Stupid. It's Randy Orton stuff. All right, the Intercontinental Championship is on the line. Shanky versus Ricochet. This is another match where the loser got a lot of offense in. Now, of course, it makes sense. Shanky is a giant, and Ricochet is a very small man. And so Shanky dominated the match. There even was some Jinder Mahal assistance in this match. And Ricochet rolled him up in a, neat little roll up and pinned him. So he kind of stole the match. Ricochet wins. Jinder Mahal then started yelling at Shanky and basically dressed him down, yelled at him. And Shanky bowed up at Jinder Mahal. No! And gave him the crazy eyes. And I said to myself, you know what? We're just not allowed to have tag teams, Like, they could have had a tag team and, Shanky could have had a nice little run with this tag team thing with him and Jinder Mahal, and he could have stood there and learned. He's been on the main roster, a year? Maybe? It's like, what are you going to do with this guy? Like, there's no future for him as a singles act. So unless you about to, give him the axe, what is the point in him, leaving Jinder? At least he had something there. Him and Jinder feuding, there's no money in that. There is no money in him and Jinder feuding. I can promise you that. I don't think that should draw a single dime. Because I don't think Shanky is good enough. Look, you can't hinder the Jinder unless you put him with Shanky, for Christ's sake. I think we're better off letting Jinder be the Maharaja by himself again than having him hang around with Shanky. Now, of course, the Intercontinental Championship it's on Ricochet. And because Smackdown has completely decimated their mid-card, there really is nowhere for him to go. Now, I've been paying attention to the house shows. And the house show loop has had Ricochet wrestling Butch. I think that they had matches in Europe. It was Ricochet versus Butch. And I think there was also some Ricochet versus, I forget who else they had him wrestling in Europe. But are those teasers? Or was that just because, Butch is from England, therefore they want to have, one of their guys in an Intercontinental Championship match, which is entirely possible. But that could be where they're going with this. Because sometimes house show loop is the precursor to what they're doing on the main roster. I forget the other matches that they're doing. I don't know if it's Sheamus or Ridge Holland. I'm not so sure who else it is, but I know Butch is one of them. I don't think Nakamura is the other one. It's somebody who was on this show, but I don't remember who it was. So it don't matter. But ultimately, they've decimated and 50-50 booked the hell out of the mid card on SmackDown. There really is nowhere for you to go, unless it's Gunther, right? So if it's Ricochet versus Gunther, that could be fun, and that could be exciting. That could be interesting. And the story could make sense too, as Gunther could play the Drew Gulak in 205 Live role, where he's not a fan of the high flying stylings of Ricochet, and it's a disgrace to the mat. Which brings us to the Gunther promo with him and Ludwig Kaiser, where Kaiser says that Gunther is the embodiment of greatness, and he destroys all who are not worthy of the mat which they find sacred. And then Gunther says, respect will be taken by the ring general. All right. They're doing wrestling match. They're doing wrestling promo with Gunther. So he's not wrestling every week. He's cutting a promo every other week. And they're keeping his lines simple. They're letting Kaiser do all the talking. This is good. Because Gunther's talking, he looks like he's reading something. All right? It's just me. He looks like he's reading. So Kaiser feels a little bit more natural. We should let him do the talking. All right? I would prefer if Gunther didn't say anything. That would be me personally. If he just stood there and stared at the camera, with his jawline clenched and everything, and let Kaiser do all the talking, and the camera comes in close on Gunther to show his intensity and show his character, and Kaiser's voice is what's doing the talking. I would prefer that. I think that's a better shot. I think that's better than, having Gunther even say a couple of words. Let Kaiser do the talking. Let Gunther do the staring. They did the contract signing. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. RK Bro and the Usos. The Usos said that they have nothing to prove. That the RK Bro are the twos. They are the ones. Riddle said that he can't tell the Usos apart. They need name tags, which I thought it was funny. Randy Orton says he doesn't have a problem telling these two people apart because Jay, you see, he's the right-hand man, while Jimmy is the bitch. It was an immediate fight, and immediately Jimmy jumped over the table. It turned into a real brawl. Roman Reigns made his first appearance in like 3 weeks, on-screen, in-ring appearance in like 3 weeks, just to make a distraction so the Usos can get the upper hand. The Usos beat up Riddle and Randy Orton. Roman got in the ring, ripped up the contract, and shoved it in Riddle's face. Drew McIntyre then came out there, stared down Roman, and they fought. Of course, the bloodline fled, and they got the hell out of there. And I was like, okay, 6-man tag. I know they've been doing 6-man tags on the house show loop. I know they have. They've been doing 6-man tags with Roman for 4 or 5 months now. So that's not nothing new. So Heyman is present. He shows up. And he says that Roman Reigns is not happy and that, he wants Adam Pearce to have a good relationship with Roman. He's going to give him the opportunity to make Roman happy. He said he wants to elevate the RKO versus Usos match. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going to make it a tables match. They're going to make it a ladder match. That could be interesting. And he says, how about a 6-man tag? And Adam Pearce was like, no, the titles are on the line. We're talking title unification. I'm not making no 6-man tag. And then Paul Heyman says, well, I would hate to have to go to the board and tell them that you are depriving the WWE Universe of a Roman Reigns match. So then it is made official later that instead of the title unification match that we spent 3 fucking weeks building, we're going to get a 6-man tag. So you wasted a fucking month of everybody's time. You wasted a month of everybody's fucking time building a title unification that will not happen. What the fuck? Out of nowhere, we have now changed this to a 6-man. Why can't we do both? Why can't you say, okay, we'll do the title unification on Raw, and then we'll do the 6-man tag on Backlash, or vice versa. We'll do the 6-man tag next week on Smackdown, which I think is the go-home week. And then they will have the tag team championship unification match at Backlash. Okay? Why not? Couldn't this be an additional thing? Why did it have to replace the fucking thing you've been building for a month? You've been building this for a month. Oh my God, bro. Ooh. All this just to get Drew McIntyre in title contention, because we already know how this is going. He's gonna Claymore kick one of the Usos, pin him. They're gonna be, oh, he beat Roman Reigns, and that's gotta make him a top contender. So he's gonna end up wrestling Roman at Money in the Bank. Look, that's fine. Money in the Bank is a big show. I'm okay with that. All right, it gets Drew out of the Money in the Bank match. I'm okay with Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. I am not okay with you wasting 3 fucking weeks of everybody's time building up a title unification match that will not happen. The only way to save this shit is for somebody to say the title unification match will have to happen on either Raw or SmackDown, either before Backlash or after. If they try to kick that shit to Money in the Bank, no, it's bullshit. You've already wasted enough of people's time with this Usos RK Bro shit. We could have done something else while we was doing this, because all these matches were Alpha Academy and the Street Profits. They was wrestling these guys every fucking week. Come on, we were doing that to eliminate them out of the conversation, and now we're talking about the unified tag team titles ain't about to happen. Horseshit, absolute horseshit. Moving on, Naomi defeated Shayna Baszler because Shayna Baszler is a jobber, and that's been established a long time ago. She beat her with a slingshot into the middle rope. For Christ's sake, come on. There was a post-match fight in which Shayna Baszler attacked the arm of Naomi with the stomp, which was great, and Natalya attacked the knee of Sasha Banks by jamming her knee into the ring apron and then putting her in the sharpshooter through the ropes, which was also great. Yes, I'm giving Natalya some credit. The physical dissection of Naomi and Sasha Banks was better than this match, and it was actually quite interesting. They're going to force them to go into their tag team title match, even though it's in 2 weeks. They're going to try to force them to go into their tag team title match injured. So, fine. All right, cool. Not mad at that. This is fine. All right, so then we get more Butch drama. Butch is still missing. Where did Butch go? We haven't seen him. They're doing Where's Butch? It's a hashtag. It's a thing that kids do. Sheamus then shows up to talk to his good buddy, Ridge Holland. Oi! Hey buddy, Ridge Holland, me pal, me best friend. I put up the posters everywhere. I put them up in the locker room. I put up the posters in the parking lot. I put up the posters in catering. What do you do? Oh, well, I put up posters in the parking lot. I put up posters in catering. And I put up posters in the locker room. Oi, I thought we agreed we would spread them out, man. The more the merrier. I laughed on the Ridge Holland line. I'm sorry. The more the merrier was stupid. Okay, it was stupid, but that's what made it funny. Because we're now going that Ridge Holland is the dumb one. Okay? I like that. It's individualizing Ridge Holland. He's not just Sheamus's little buddy who is, they're simpatico. Sheamus is the brains of the operation and Ridge Holland is an idiot. All right? At least we got that part down. All right? Because he clearly, and Sheamus even asked him, like, didn't you see me posters all over the place? And he just said, the more the merrier. And I thought, you know what? That's great logic. Solid logic. Maybe Sheamus put the posters in stupid places and Ridge Holland, he put them in better places. I don't know, man. At least he's doing something different, So it was dumb. Sheamus then called him Ridge the Fridge. I don't know what that meant, but it was funny. Ridge Holland wrestled Xavier Woods and lost. Small package again, what they call him backwoods. Earlier, New Day made fun of Butch, saying that the New Day been together for 8 years, and y'all can't keep it together for 1 month. Then said that Sheamus is a tag team thotty, that he's got all these different partners, and said that he's shaking it now for these young boys, and he's just shaking Sheamus. And then they piped in some shaking Sheamus chants, and the audio noise on this show was awful, by the way. Sheamus was visibly upset after Ridge Holland lost. He even yelled at Ridge Holland and said he's going to show him how to get it done. So he challenged Kofi Kingston to an immediate match. And it was fight night once again. Kofi Kingston took his jacket off, got in there, and got beat up by Sheamus. Sheamus wins with the Brogue Kick. Immediately after this, Ridge Holland threw Xavier Woods into the barricade. They went and got a table, and Ridge Holland powerbombed Xavier Woods through the table. Barely. That powerbomb through the table was clunky. It was not good. Okay? It was not good. I don't know what's going on with Ridge Holland's upper body strength, but he needs to get it together. It wasn't good. It wasn't smooth. He needs to be able to powerbomb somebody smoother than that. They will be having a tables match next week. So they're going to try to pay off the Sheamus, Ridge Holland, New Day thing. Similar to their attempt to, pay off the McIntyre, Sami Zayn thing. And look, I'm okay with that. All right, you want to have a special match? Cool. But why do we have to have these matches 4 to 5 fucking weeks in a row? That's the thing that's really throwing me for a fucking loop. It doesn't have to be every week. You don't have to have these people make contact every week. If they're making contact every week, there is no heat, And I saw somebody say, well, they're 50-50 booking this feud. Like, no, they're not. The New Day have won the vast majority of these matches. And I don't think they've had that many tag team matches. The 50-50 of, Ridge Holland losing to Xavier Woods, but Kofi Kingston losing to Sheamus, that's not 50-50 booking. Those are different people. Okay, so, different people won different matches. Now, it makes no sense that, people can't kick out of a small package, but, that's his new finish, whatever. Xavier Woods is getting what he wants, which is, he's got his road back, so apparently he's still king of the ring. So I don't know, man. The table match, I don't care, man. I honestly don't care. I like Sheamus and his crew. I still don't like the New Day, but this death trap they've been in with the New Day, I cannot stand it. It's awful, man. I wonder what's going on with Butch. Is Butch going to come back and he's going to be angry? Is he going to come back and he's going to be a different Butch? Is he going to he's likely to interfere in this match and actually help them win, which I'm guessing is the case that they're going to pull here. Is they're going to have Butch interfere and cost the New Day the match. But then this thing is going nowhere fast. This is a mid-card feud that's going nowhere fast and seemingly not getting anybody over. Because how can you possibly get over? You're just losing every week. Or you're beating people with no stakes every week. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, Lacey Evans, she had another tearful conversation about her parents and her background. She said, despite being kicked out of the house at 17, she was the first in her family to finish high school. She went into the military at 19, was the only female member of the Marine squad team, and it was tough for her to see all of her fellow enlisted waving at their parents and knowing that hers would never be there, and she had no parental support at all. And she says that knowing that you're not going to have any parents, no family support, it creates a different driving force, anger. And she said she tried her best to show to her family that there was another option, something other than drugs and poverty. And she's going to continue trying to do that. And she said she never had that support. She never had that family support, and she doesn't need it. And by this point, she's basically sobbing. She's really in deep cry mode. And she, of course, repeated her line about she's not saying that she's better than everybody else, but she's saying that they're not better than her. They spent like a month burying Lacey Evans' dad. They really have, dog. They spent like a month shitting on this guy. This poor fella. He's got to be like, if he hasn't watched this on TV, somebody got to send it to him on Facebook or something. If he's still alive, he could be dead, and we don't, and then none of this matters. But imagine being Lacey Evans' dad and you're still alive. And she's on TV talking about how you were the drug addict and abusive and all kinds of, and not supportive. Even if it's all true, you don't got to tell everybody. Come on, you don't got to tell everybody. Even if it's true, you don't got to tell everybody. God damn. What happened to some decorum? Have some decorum, please. I am wondering how long this is going to go on. Because it seems like we've all caught up from the looks of things. Now, there might be one more video to discuss why she decided to go into WWE. And, I've enjoyed these videos because I enjoyed the peek back into her life. I definitely think we could have done it better, as a sit-down interview where she could have, talked to somebody else and they could have asked questions. And that, I think, would have made it a little bit more official than her standing there and basically crying and talking. It's a good, maybe we should have did it in documentary style where instead of her talking and staring at the camera like it's a speech, we put it together in a package like a video. And she just basically narrated over home videos and pictures and stuff like that. I think it still would have been just as effective. I understand the tears and the emotional aspect is what's carrying this angle. And this is the good stuff. I saw so many people saying, oh, they fired Dakota Kai and they let Lacey Evans stay on TV. Like, look, because Lacey Evans is an actual interesting person. Even if she can't fucking wrestle, so what? She was in war. I don't want to hear about that. She had a fucked up life. That's interesting. You know, this is more interesting than what Dakota Kai has done, because I don't know shit about Dakota Kai and I don't care. But this is at least interesting. You know, even if this doesn't work out, it's at least interesting. You know, at least we can tell you, like, this girl has an interesting life, man. You know, you might not like her, but my God, look at the shit that she went through. You know? And then there's, you know, a lot more coming, because I think she's a little bit older than Dakota Kai. I think, you know, Lacey is probably in her mid-30s or early 30s or something like that. So she got a little bit more life experience. And I think I talked about this before in terms of WWE signing these talents while they're very, very young. One of the benefits that the indie talents have is they have life experience. Even, you know, people who've been in the business for a long time, unless you've been wrestling since you were in high school, you know, you probably got some real life shit that you've done, like the guys in the past. And that's really the one thing that I try to always remind people. It's like when you talk to nerds, gatekeepers about wrestling, and they're really, everybody should be like Nick Wayne, the 16-year-old wrestler who wanted to be a wrestler when he was 16. So he went to found a gym and he worked very hard at it. And yeah, it's like, yes, it would all be great if if wrestling was like the NBA and you could start doing it in middle school. And then all of a sudden you can get to the main events of WrestleMania and everybody, it's all such a great story. That would be great. But that's not what wrestling is. Wrestling is almost always a second option or a third option for somebody. A guy who's a big, tough dude who, you know, is a washout from football, a washout from boxing, you know, somebody, a bouncer at a nightclub, a guy who works at a gym or something like that. And somebody, he bumped muscles with some other guy. And he's like, hey, you're a big dude. I'm a big dude. You should get in the wrestling business. And then the dude brings his attitude, you know, his big bouncer mentality to the wrestling business. And, you know, he gets respect from other guys who, you know, maybe he was a football player and you were a bouncer at a nightclub, but you both work in physical fields where, you know, you move guys around. You know, guys move out of your way. You hit the gym. You eat the same shit. You know, everything becomes a brotherhood. It's all working out. Nowadays, these dudes grow up playing video games. And I hate to sound like Undertaker or whatever, but they're playing video games and saying that should be me. And then they're going to wrestling schools. They're complaining if you yell at them. They're complaining that they have to wear revealing tights. They're complaining about every fucking thing. And then they get there and they're like, oh no, it's too hard. And it's like, I don't hear no complaining from anybody with real life experience about how tough training is or about how anything, you know, as far as office stuff is concerned, how tough it is or how humiliating this must be. We need to quit. Shotzi needs to go back on the independents so she can jump through chairs again. Like, I saw her in Evolve dive through the ropes and land on a stack of chairs. Like, she probably got paid in Dunkin' Donuts for that. She probably got paid in coffee to do that shit. She's probably going to make more money working 1 minute and 41 seconds with Charlotte than she was ever going to make working in the fucking indies. But these idiot fans who think that everybody should be a wrestler and she should go in there and get dropped on her head every 10 minutes, for 10 minutes rather, just to make less money, because at least you get to have a great match. Thumbs up. It's like, no. People don't care about that shit. People care about interesting people. And even if you don't think Lacey Evans is interesting, even if you don't like her, she can fill 2 or 3 minutes talking about her life without having to take a bump. And people can have conversations about it like, wow, that's interesting. Some people are going to be able to see themselves in that. Some people are going to be attached to her emotionalism. Some people are going to say, this is a waste of time. Yada, yada, yada. Everybody has their opinion on it. But she can entertain for 3 minutes just talking about her life and not have to take a bump. And at least, you know, WWE allows that option to go out there and do that. Other wrestling companies don't. Most of them don't have the option for you to open up and entertain in ways that don't, you know, break your fucking body down, you know, or build a genuine connection with the audience. which is what Lacey Evans is trying to do here. She's trying to reach out and have a genuine connection with the audience. Now, is it working? We won't know until she actually shows back up. So we'll see if it actually works. But I can tell you that when she was a babyface as the sassy Southern Belle, it was working. Mainly because they brought her daughter into it. But she was gaining some momentum when she was feuding with Bayley and Sasha Banks. Maybe it'll work. I don't know. Can't tell you for sure. And sometimes this shit don't work. But I can tell you it definitely doesn't work. Being a wrestler, that shit don't work at all. It don't work. Because if it didn't work for Dean Malenko, it ain't going to work for no fucking body. All right? It ain't going to work. Being a wrestler guy, that shit ain't going to work. You may get like Chris Benoit. You may be one of those dudes who slip through the cracks where enough people like you, where they're willing to put you over and put you on that pedestal. But eventually you're coming back down. And you're coming down hard. Benoit spent the last several years, like he was a world champion. He spent the last 3 years of his career as a mid-carder. Never could get back on top. It was never going to happen. At least he got there, but it was never going to happen again. People who have like real charisma, real personality, they have long careers. There's a place for the wrestler person too. Yes, there is. It's called the low to mid card. The Cesaro spot. You get pumpkins put on your head and that kind of shit. You end up like Drew Gulak, where they just started putting you in weird places every week. At least you got a job. You have to be able to do more than that. Have to be able to build a genuine connection with the audience, a genuine connection built on something real. That's what they're trying to do here. Not to diss Dakota Kai or anything, but she was in NXT all that time. I don't care about her, And that's the last thing I'm going to say about that. But I saw somebody comparing the Lacey Evans and Dakota Kai. Like, Lacey Evans should have been fired. She can't wrestle. And Dakota Kai is a good wrestler. And I'm like, okay, well, good. Go good wrestle somewhere else. Goddamn. It's not going to stop you from getting a good wrestler. You got fired from WWE. You're still a good wrestler. You're just an unemployed one. All right? Maybe you'll get employed. Who cares? Ultimately. Nobody gave a shit when you were on TV. I doubt they're going to care when you leave. But I like these promos. They can't go on forever. Of course, we're going to eventually have to put her back in the ring. Now, who are we going to pair her up with is the question. We have done a good job of telling the story of Lacey Evans as a poor, underclass, but hardworking performer, which is good. Now we need a big upper crust performer to create. How about if she was to say Dusty Rhodes, we would need a Ric Flair. I'm just, I know I just spent an inordinate amount of time talking about Charlotte wrestling men, but it seems like that might be the next direction, Now, I wouldn't necessarily pick Charlotte to be her opponent because everybody knows about Rick and his alcoholism and a lot of other stuff. And, what do you want Charlotte to go out there and be like, your dad was a drunk, my dad was a drunk too. That's not, you don't want that. You don't want that. So no, you can't do that. So I'm really thinking about who can they pick really to pair her up with. Natalya, I guess, but her dad's a drug addict too. Her dad died from drugs. So it can't be the Heart Princess because her dad's a fucking drug addict. It can't be the Flair Princess because her dad's a fucking drug addict. And like they should be bonding over this shit, not feuding over it. So somebody has to come out of the woodwork and say, I'm come from a functional household. And my parents loved me. Unlike you, Lacey Evans, your parents hated you. Somebody has to come out and say some shit like that. But who could it possibly be? I don't know. I thought Aaliyah could possibly be that character, but she's a babyface. She's not going to do that. Would it be Xia Li? I don't know. But that's the thing about these characters is now we've setting up Lacey Evans to be female Sergeant Slaughter. She needs to have an opponent, and we don't got nobody to pair her up against. You know, there's no evil Russians for her to fight, no Al Qaeda for her to battle, no I got money and I come from class type of Ted DiBiase for her to fight. There's just nothing. So it's like she's cutting these promos into the void. Like, okay, yeah, but now when it's time to get out there and wrestle, who is she going to mix it up with? I don't know. You know, that's a good question. All right, that's SmackDown. I always spend so much time talking about these fucking Lacey Evans promos because it's the only interesting thing on the fucking show. There's no fucking Roman Reigns. There's no Brock Lesnar. Ain't no real stars at all on SmackDown. There's no energy on SmackDown. I spent most of my damn time talking about Charlotte and fucking Lacey Evans. Come on, man. Give me some content here, SmackDown. Shit. I'm stretching this shit out. All right, so here's the thing. A little tidbit for everybody who made it this far. There will not be a Rampage review. I didn't even finish the show. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I watched up till Hookhausen, and I was like, you know what? Peace out. I gotta go record a video, and I'm going to bed. I go to work in the morning. All right, like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later.